What's going on, guys? Today we're talking about WWE 2K25 and more specifically, should the game release on last gen consoles? We're gonna go over the pros and the cons, and at the end I'll make my overall conclusion. So when it comes to 2K25, there's a lot of emphasis on next year's game, as 10 years will have passed since 2K took over with 2K15, since we don't count 2K14. And with 2K15 being the first wrestling game for the Xbox One and PS4, will 2K25 follow in its footsteps and be the only wrestling game just for the Series X and PS5? Because here's the thing, if they were to go to current gen and PC only, they could add a lot more than previous years. The first pro is that instead of the entrances being locked at 30 frames per second, they could go up to 60 FPS. And I know it's something small, but it really does make the entrance flow even more, especially when you compare the two. Another pro is that instead of the 8 men/women that are allowed in the ring at once, we could go up to 10, or possibly even more. That way, we can recreate the classic Survivor Series 5 vs 5 matchup, or more recently, the infamous War Games match. Not only that, but loading times would probably be even faster, which is ironic considering it only takes 5 seconds to launch a match on the current gen consoles, and hopefully it can give the highlight reel more time than 30 seconds. Not only that, but by it having more horsepower, we could finally get more than 100 core slots and more than 1,000 download limits for images, which would be great for the community, especially the amount of work the creators do for arenas, championships, and making the models up to date. So with there being even more space, the potential is unlimited. Okay, so now let's talk about the cons for 2K25 to not release on last gen. The first is that there's still a large amount of people who still play the Xbox One/PS4. Now, I don't know the exact amount for Xbox, but for PlayStation, according to Gaming Bolt back in June, 50% of Sony's active user base is still on the PlayStation 4. Which is a huge chunk and a large amount of sales 2K25 could miss out on. And let's not forget, 2K still have things they need to add to the WWE series. Things like Triple Threat and Fatal 4-Way Rivalry options in Universe mode, Online GM mode, more match types like the Lumberjack match, Championship Scramble, and the Inferno match. And for the last gen users to miss out on features like that, it would be a massive shame. So overall, I think WWE 2K25 should release on last gen consoles as well as current gen, just because there are still a lot of active users on those consoles, and we still have games being released for them, like Black Ops 6 and Sonic X Shadow Generation, so I believe we're still a few years out. And for reference, 2K17 was the last wrestling game for the Xbox 360/PS3, so by that logic, 2K27 might end up being the last. But with more games being released on current gen, like Undisputed and Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, maybe we're not that far off seeing the best version of WWE games on next generation hardware. But what do you think? Should WWE 2K25 release on last gen and current gen consoles and please everyone? Or should the game release only on PS5 and Xbox Series X? Let me know in the comments below, leave a like, subscribe, and more importantly, take care.